Hey guys, welcome back to our YouTube version of our Circle Up Bible Study review. I know I've missed a couple of weeks, but I had some things happening in my life that kept me from being here, which kept me from being the one that was teaching, or even setting in the teaching. And so I didn't really have exact what to review, but I'm back. And wanted to review, we've been looking at the Narnia movie, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. We watched it the other Saturday, and then we're talking about that a little bit today and a little bit next week. Then the following week, on February the 13th at 6:30 here in the youth room, we're going to watch Narnia, Prince Caspian, the second in the 3 movie series, and then we'll talk about that for a couple weeks also. If you're watching this because you can't come for COVID reasons to youth, and we understand that, and these movies are on Disney Plus if you want to keep up with us, or if you want to have kind of a background to that. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is what we're dealing with today and next week. And then Prince Caspian for a couple weeks after that, and then the last one will be The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, and we'll watch that in several weeks from now. But they're all on Disney Plus, so you're able to watch them that way if you would like. Also want to remind the girls about the Blessed Girl Conference that's coming in February. The 20th, I think, is the date. I don't have the card right with me. Should be putting it up on the screen for you though, so that you can see the actual date. There is a virtual component, so if you're stuck at home because of the COVID situation, you can still register virtually. If you register for in person, it is hosted here at our church. We are holding it to 75, and so it's going to be a smaller number. And we'd love to have you young ladies be involved in Blessed Girl Teen Conference this year. Once again, we're holding it down to 75, trying to keep the group small and all because of the COVID-19 situations. So this week we talked about the Narnia movie, just a couple of little aspects about it, and I'm only going to highlight more one than the other. And the first thing I want to highlight is the question I began with the students this past Tuesday and Wednesday night. I asked students, what are some things that tempt you? In other words, I made the assumption that, and I even laid it out this way, that the teens that I'm talking to are Christians who want to live for Jesus but still find themselves messing up. And so what are some of those things that tempt you? And so as you're watching this, think about what are some things that tempt you in this approach to really wanting to do a decent job at living the Christian life. You know, one person said the temptation to cheat for good grades was one of those things. Other people said that they're tempted by telling the truth. In other words, they feel like sometimes it's easier to tell a lie than it is to tell the truth. So what would be some of those things that might tempt you? The other question was, what things cause you to fail? And you would think they may be similar, but they are a little different because sometimes the temptations pull you away, but there's other things that could cause you to fail. One of those things in David's life, we didn't talk about it Tuesday or Wednesday, but in David's life that caused him to fail when he sinned with Bathsheba was laziness, that he didn't get up and go out to battle with his men. He was laying around the palace. And so sometimes laziness, sometimes not doing will cause you to fail. Then we looked at this verse in Mark 14:38, and it says this, "Then he returned to his disciples and found them sleeping. Simon," he said to Peter, "are you asleep? Couldn't you keep watch for me 1 hour? Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." So this is the Garden of Gethsemane, and this is where Peter falls asleep as Jesus leaves him and 2 other disciples there in the garden. He ends up falling asleep while Jesus goes off to pray and comes back and catches them asleep, and then this discourse takes place. So even Peter found himself with a desire to serve Christ still failing at times. And I think at times we find ourselves in that world ourselves. In The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Edmund finds himself being tempted and succumbing to the temptation, wanting that aspect of to feel bigger, to feel like he is older, mad at his brother who treats him like a little child many times, and at least in Edmund's mind. And then the White Witch, the Queen of Narnia, then tempting him with Turkish delights and the promise to be king. And so he succumbs to that. He falls into her trap and grabs hold of that, falling into temptation. We also looked at Lucy from the standpoint that Lucy struggled also, because Lucy, who is good and has a desire to do right things, though allowed herself to be trapped by Mr. Thomas. And in that trapment, if it hadn't have been for Aslan coming in the fire and roaring and waking her up, could have been trapped as Mr. Thomas was trying to get her lulled to sleep to turn her into the white witch. And so sometimes we got to be careful, because just like Peter and just like Lucy, we can be lulled into sleep. The Christian life is something we have to work at. The Christian life is something we have to continue to pursue and push forward. To not push forward, to try to coast, means we're going to fall back. It always has to be a push forward, a desire to do more, a desire to grow. Scripture, Paul calls us soldiers. We're soldiers for Christ. And so as a good soldier, we have to work for our King. I was talking to a group of teenagers one time about the disciplines of the Christian faith, and I had a student speak up and say, "This sounds a lot like school. This sounds like work." You know, he wanted the Christian life to be just kind of this coast thing. Get saved and then coast. And that's not the way it works. When you get saved, you're continuing to have to work in the disciplines of the Christian life. If not, you're going to fall prey to Satan. Next week, we're going to look at some of those aspects of the evil, and the fact that here in Narnia, it's the Queen of Narnia, or the White Witch. In our world, it is Satan and who he is. And some of the names of Satan we're going to look at next week, as well as look at the rest of some overview of the movie. So I hope you got watch the movie, and I hope you tune back in next week. Thanks, guys, for watching, and eventually we hope that we're all back together again and be able to hang out once again together. Take care.